narrated, half of it will be my perspective, but it's a story. Fair enough. Please start. Today I'm going to tell you about me and my partners in crime. There were two things that have been supporting me right from my childhood. Stories and the stage. Every one of us have been told stories of our childhood, of our infancy. So I'm going to start right there. So I want all of you Toastmasters to sit back and relax. Do it. Sit back. Relax. A very good evening, Toastmasters.
Good evening.
Relatives are one set of people who love to remind you of who you were or how you behaved when you were an infant. My aunts particularly love to tell me this, that back when I was a little baby, some 20 years down the lane, if you can't imagine it, I'll help you with it. First leg, second sentence. That was me on my first birthday. So my aunts tell me that I love listening to stories. My mom, whether I understood or not, used to make it a point to tell me stories. Stories from the Bible, stories from the Grimm's fairy tales, stories from Aesop's fables, stories from 1001 Arabian Nights. These were stories that I practically grew up on. But by the time I was 5, circumspection did not have a place in my life. My mom decided that, you know what, let's try and jumble things up in Jane's life. So she tells me that when the first call comes for the children to be picked out to go and stand in front of the assembly, please go and give your name and come back. Obedient that I was, I go and I tell my class teacher, ma'am, the next time that we have assembly and there are children that are going to be speaking there, I want to put my name in. Okay, what do you want to do? I think I'll go with storytelling because that's something that I have been doing for quite some time. She was bewildered, a 5-year-old child telling a story. Never mind, I'll just give you one chance, let's see how you do it. So, the next morning, I go to the school, decked up in my prim and proper school uniform, stand in front of the mic, which is by the way taller than me. So one guy comes and he adjusts the mic, and it's come to right onto my mouth level, and I lose my mouth. I forget the story that I'm supposed to be telling. Stories that I have been hearing ever since I was a baby, and my favorite story, I'm sorry, which I told last time in my ACB1, I'm supposed to tell that story which was favorite to my heart, and I have forgotten the story itself. I didn't know what to do, completely confounded. Slowly my mom's voice came back to me. She said, just start off, because every fairy tale basically has the same thing. You have a princess, you have a prince, and they live happily ever after. So I start my story. Slowly, word by word, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, I go on telling stories. And to the utter relief of me, I'm done with the story. Everyone is clapping. No one knows of my nervousness. Probably call it beginner's luck. Isn't there this term that the first time luck, the first time you try something, it just goes on well. I remember the story, I remember the moral of the story. But the second time that I went on stage, I still remember the day very clearly because that was the day I flopped it. Confident of myself, I go on stage, tell the story. Something like hard work is something that you need to go ahead in life. That was the moral of my story. I floundered on the stage for 5 whole minutes before I could actually come up with the model of the tale. And I just said thank you and I ran off the stage. I was bullied for the next 2 weeks. Imagine a 5-year-old kid being bullied only because she did not remember the moral of the story. She had the guts to go on the stage, but people bullied her because she forgot one final line. The story was intact, but the line was forgotten. So I went on stage the third time, only when my father called me aside and told me, you know what? People will fail. But if you are interested in listening to stories, you should also be interested in telling stories. Go out, try it one more time. And the third time, it was all back to normal. I thought I can tell a story, and I did tell a story. So, my first partner in crime came into my life as stories and then the stage. My second partner in crime was my books. At the same age of 5, my mom thought, I have had enough of telling stories to this girl. I simply do not have the energy to tell her more stories. Because she was a school teacher, she used to go to school early in the morning along with me at around 8 o'clock, come back from school at 3 o'clock, the same time that I used to come back, have tuitions, and after the tuitions, she used to sit and she used to tell me stories. So she gives me this one book called The Sausage Family. Anyone heard of it? Anyone heard of anything? Put your hands please. Yes. She was my first author that I ever read. My mom read the story halfway through and she left it. She was like, if you are interested in reading the story, if you are interested in telling your friends a story on stage, you need to finish that book. It was the toughest time, people. Reading one book that seemed so gigantic was an impossible task. So I started slowly, page by page, as I turned. I found that my imagination grew more than what the storytellers from the cassettes or what my mom told me. Imagination took its wings and sprouted there. Imagination helped me tell stories from the next line. So today, as a tribute to my parents, who always told me this, that Jane, if you ever get to be a speaker, I will make sure that this photo is shown to the people whom you speak. I give you this photo, the next photo. When I was 1 year old, without even knowing what a mic was, I held the mic, and to my parents' utter joy, after 20 years, I still stand with the same thing in my hand, going around, telling people stories, enjoying myself, and making sure people enjoy what I do. Over to the Toastmasters.
A bit louder. So, how many of you here like to hear a story? Like to hear a story? Okay, so do I. Being a story lover myself, I could totally picturize what she was saying from the very teeny tiny part of her story to the big picture and how she ended it. Toastmaster Jane took us on a journey of how a story listener and a lover become a storyteller. First of all, following her objectives, how did she arouse my interest and made me listen to what she was saying? How good was her storytelling? She aroused my interest with the way she developed her story, step by step, her plot line, and how she unleashed the plot to the final ways. Another thing I liked about her story was the visual aid. Showing a picture and then going on about illustrating the part and details of the scenario behind it was a very good move on her part. For a storyteller, it makes it easier to listen to the story and go with the flow. Thirdly, Toastmaster Jane had amazing body movements. Her body language, I've seen her before and she had a good part in it. But what I would prefer in some parts of Toastmaster Jane is since it's storytelling and you're very good with your body language, there is small parts where you are acting in dialogue between you and your father. Such parts you would have acted it upon. Like a child, yourself being, and you could modify your voice a bit. You have a good voice control, so you could have acted like a small child who got struck at the screen. And acted like, oh, I got struck. And some facial expressions here and there, so that it would have, made it more realistic for us to feel what you were going through when you went on stage at that particular point of time. Along with it, you could have modified your voice as a child as well. An easier part, you had a bubbliness when you came on stage and you said the part, I forgot, and told me and all. So with that you would have, modified and spoken like a small kid, and that would have made us main objectives coming to it, did she go through the main elements of the speech, of the storytelling, how it went? Yes, she did. And her objective was, did she create an original story and her personal experience? Yes, she did. So, in total, what was it? She did a good job and took us on a journey, as I said in the beginning, from a teller, a listener to a teller. And she had a good plot development, visual aid, and a very soothing voice. But what I would recommend her is to work with her body language a bit on acting, because it's all about like, it helps us more to understand the situations and her feelings, and a bit to change her voice accordingly. And that's why I over to the